Snow had been falling since late afternoon, the kind that softened sound and blurred edges, turning the quiet streets of Norfolk, Virginia, into something almost unreal. Christmas lights glowed behind frosted windows, red and gold reflections stretching across the pavement. Most homes were warm and loud with family, with music drifting through walls and laughter rising above clinking dishes. Jack Turner noticed all of it the way he noticed everything, automatically, without effort, cataloguing details out of habit he had never fully shaken. He parked his truck near the end of the block and shut off the engine. The silence that followed felt heavier than it should have. Jack sat for a moment, hands resting on the steering wheel, breath fogging the windshield. 42 years old, retired Navy SEAL, 8 deployments, and still his body reacted to silence as if something might break it at any second. He glanced at the cardboard boxes on the passenger seat and in the back. Canned food, blankets, small toys, donations he had collected over the past week for a local shelter that supported veterans' families. He volunteered there every Christmas Eve and Christmas night, partly because it was the right thing to do, and partly because it kept him from sitting alone in his own house, staring at walls that were too quiet. Jack stepped out of the truck, boots crunching on thin ice. Cold air cut into his lungs, sharp and clean. He adjusted his jacket and lifted one of the boxes, locking the truck with a soft beep. The shelter was only a few blocks away. He could have driven, but he preferred to walk. It gave him time to think, and thinking was easier when his body was moving. As he passed the houses lining the street, something tugged at his attention. It wasn't dramatic, no screams, no alarms, but a subtle wrongness. One house stood darker than the others, its Christmas lights only half lit, some flickering weakly, others completely dead. A wreath hung crooked on the front door, as if someone had meant to straighten it and never found the time. Jack slowed without realizing it. Years of training sharpened his instincts to a fine edge, and they were whispering now. He paused, listening. At first, there was nothing but the wind. Then faintly he heard voices. Children's voices. They were muffled, tired, not excited the way children usually sounded on Christmas night. Jack shifted the box in his arms and took a step closer, careful not to make noise. Light glowed weakly through the front window, and when he looked more closely, he could see movement inside, small shadows passing back and forth. He told himself not to assume anything. Plenty of families were struggling. Plenty of houses looked messy from the outside. But the unease didn't fade. Instead, it settled deeper. Jack walked up to the porch and set the box down gently. He raised his hand to knock, then hesitated. He didn't want to scare anyone. Finally, he tapped lightly, the sound barely carrying through. The drive through Norfolk was quiet. The kind of quiet that only came late on Christmas night. Streets that had been busy hours earlier were now empty. Most families settled in after long dinners and gift exchanges. Jack kept his hands steady on the steering wheel, eyes moving constantly, scanning intersections out of habit. Emily sat rigidly in the passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap, while Noah and Lily were buckled into the back, wrapped in the spare blankets Jack kept in the truck. For the first few minutes, no one spoke. The heater hummed softly, pushing warm air through the cab, and Jack noticed Lily slowly relax, her shoulders dropping as the cold finally left her fingers. Noah leaned his head against the window, watching the lights blur past. "I'm sorry," Emily said suddenly, breaking the silence. Her voice was tight, controlled. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I had everything planned." Jack glanced at her briefly, then back to the road. "You don't need to apologize," he said. "Things go wrong. That doesn't mean you failed." She gave a short, humorless laugh. "It feels like it does." Jack didn't argue. He had learned long ago that some feelings couldn't be talked away. "How long has the car been acting up?" he asked instead. "A few weeks," Emily admitted. "I kept hoping it would hold out until after the holidays. I work part-time at a clinic, and repairs aren't cheap." Jack nodded. He filed the information away, already thinking through possibilities. "We'll take a look at it tomorrow," he said. "I know a guy." She turned to him, surprised. "You don't have to." "I know," Jack said gently, "but I want to." The rest of the drive passed more easily after that. Noah asked Jack about the truck. curious about the controls and the faint scuffs on the dashboard. Jack answered simply, keeping his tone relaxed. Lily eventually fell asleep, her head tipping forward, breath slow and even. They turned off the main road and onto a narrower street lined with tall pines. Jack's property sat at the end of the lane, set back from the road. The main house dark except for a single porch light. He pulled into the driveway and parked near a smaller structure a short distance away. The guest house was simple, one story, with a sloped roof and warm light glowing from the windows. Jack cut the engine and stepped out, the cold biting again as he moved around to open the doors. Emily helped Lily down carefully, lifting her when she didn't wake. Noah followed, his eyes wide as he took in the quiet space. "This is where we'll be staying?" he asked. "For tonight," Jack said. "As long as you need, really." Emily shifted Lily on her hip, visibly overwhelmed. "Jack, this is too much." He met her gaze steadily. "It's not." Inside, the guest house was warm and clean. A small living area opened into a kitchenette, and a hallway led to a bedroom and bathroom. Jack flicked on the lights as they entered, and Noah let out a quiet, "Wow." "There's a tree," Lily murmured. Morning arrived slowly, as if the world itself was reluctant to disturb the fragile peace that had settled overnight. Pale winter light filtered through the trees, reflecting off the fresh snow and casting a soft glow over Jack's property. He woke before his alarm, a habit ingrained so deeply it no longer felt like discipline, just instinct. For a moment he lay still, listening. No distant traffic, no voices, just the quiet hum of the heater and the faint creak of the house settling. Jack swung his legs out of bed and pulled on a sweater, moving with the same quiet efficiency he had practiced for decades. As he brewed coffee, his thoughts drifted to the guest house. He hadn't heard a sound during the night, which he took as a good sign. Sleep, real sleep, was a gift too many people underestimated. He carried 2 mugs across the yard, steam rising into the cold air. As he approached the guest house, he noticed the lights were already on. Through the window, he could see Emily standing at the counter, her hair loose around her shoulders. Lily perched on a stool, while Noah sat at the table drawing on a scrap of paper. Jack knocked lightly before opening the door. Emily turned, surprise flickering across her face, followed by a smile that reached her eyes for the first time. "Good morning," she said. "Morning," Jack replied, holding up the mugs. "I come bearing caffeine?" Noah grinned. "Mum really needs that." Emily laughed softly, a sound that seemed to surprise even her. He's not wrong. They shared breakfast. Together, simple eggs and toast, but it felt significant all the same. The kids talked about what Santa might have done at other houses, about movies they wanted to watch later. Emily listened, sipping her coffee, her posture relaxed in a way Jack hadn't seen the night before. Around mid-morning, a car pulled into the driveway. Emily stiffened instantly, her fingers tightening around her mug. "That'll be them," Jack said gently. "You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with." She nodded, though nerves danced behind her eyes. "I know." The caseworker, a woman named Sarah, introduced herself calmly, her tone professional but warm. She spoke directly to Emily, not over her, and listened more than she talked. Jack stayed nearby but out of the way, answering questions only when asked. They sat at the small table, paperwork spread neatly between them. Sarah explained options: temporary assistance, emergency housing support if needed, vehicle repair funds, counseling resources. Nothing was promised lightly, but nothing was dismissed either. Emily asked careful questions, her voice steady but emotional under the surface. When the conversation ended, she looked lighter, as if a weight she'd been carrying alone had finally shifted. "This doesn't fix everything," Sarah said honestly, "but it gives you a place to start." Emily nodded. "That's more than I had yesterday." After Sarah left, Jack stepped outside to give Emily a moment. He heard Lay